Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Deanne Mazzochi, Illinois 47th House District and Elmhurst, Illinois resident. Government 101 starts with keeping your streets safe from violent people. Governor Pritzker has been touting his so-called success with criminal justice reform. I'd like to know what he considers to be a failure. So far in Chicago, we're halfway through the year, and we have the highest murder rate that many of us have ever seen. Why is this happening? It's happening because of bad government policies that prioritize predators over people. And innocent victims in our local neighborhoods are being terrorized. Cook County decided a few years back that they would embrace policies that keep people arrested for crimes, including violent crimes, out of jail. How's that working out? Well, law enforcement may not be defunded, but they're certainly demoralized. Even though Illinois bans gun possession without a valid firearm owner's ID card, and the Chicago Police Department has stepped up arrests of offenders who are carrying illegal guns, what happens to them? Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx lets them go. She calls them nonviolent, as long as that gun wasn't actually used or just fired at that time. And these lawbreakers are released back to the streets. When you have a revolving door at the courthouse when it comes to gun crimes, you can't expect gun violence to go down. And we're not just seeing this in Cook County. This is having a spillover effect all throughout the collar counties as well. In my home county of DuPage County, we've seen a rise in all sorts of crimes. We've seen rises in burglary and carjacking, and where a local county sheriff has estimated that on any given day, probably 40% of the people in his jail have Cook County or Chicago addresses. Now, it's bad enough that Chicago has chosen to follow these failed policies that are hurting our local counties, but Governor Pritzker is being backed by people who want these same policies signed into law for the entire state of Illinois. And in fact, he has signed many of these types of provisions into law for the entire state of Illinois. And while he got to 60 votes for them in the House, there was bipartisan opposition against them. Governor Pritzker is failing at the single most important duty that we entrust to our government, keeping our residents safe and secure in their homes and their neighborhoods. And while he talks quite a lot about equity, he's helping to take failed soft on crime policies statewide. That's not more equitable for crime victims, and it's certainly not more equitable for people whose neighborhoods are under attack and are unsafe. By continuing to pass legislation that ties the hands of our courts, our state's attorneys, and law enforcement without a full picture of the potential consequences, the Democrats in the General Assembly and Governor Pritzker continue to do a disservice to our law enforcement officers and, more importantly, to the safety of the people that we represent.